Today was a big day in NBA free agency. A lot of players signing with new teams. The most notable player is Paul George leaving the Los Angeles Clippers to sign with the Philadelphia 76ers. So, Trevon, what are your thoughts on Paul George signing with the Sixers? And how do you think he'll fit on this team and help them moving forward into the future?
Yeah, initially, I think that this is, in theory, right, a great fit for Paul George to kind of just slide into this roster. When you think about the starting five of the Philadelphia 76ers, Tyrese Maxey, the best thing that could have happened to him is the departure of James Harden. You have that guard spot covered. Paul George is the two-way wing prototype that everybody prefers to have. Offensively, you could talk about a style of play about not getting downhill or getting into the paint enough and things of that nature. But he's a two-way player, one of the best in the game. Shot creation, can guard multiple positions, and has athleticism, experience, things of that nature. And then obviously the centerpiece is Joel Embiid manning the whole stardom of this Philadelphia 76ers. And if you just think about the scoring Embiid puts from a night to night basis, and then you include the skill set of Paul George and Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, you could say this is probably one of the best talents, or if not the best talent that Paul George has played with, because Kawhi is great and amazing, but I don't want to say that him and Paul George were redundant at all, but they kind of provided similar things, same position, similar heights, and similar ways of scoring pull up jump shots. Kawhi was more mid range, but essentially pull up jump shots and being able to play defense on the other end. But I feel like with this big three you have, we'll call it a big three, right? You have the guard spot covered, you have the wing spot covered, you have the big man covered. And I think it was such a big thing retaining Kelly Oubre and then adding on Eric Gordon to just keep providing that veteranship and give you some versatility. And then they also got Drummond as well. I like the upside of all the positions covered. And I feel like nobody is really going to get in each other's way. I think everybody accepts the fact that Embiid is the main guy. And I think, unlike Harden, Paul George will not deter Maxey from doing what he does best. And we know the kind of mindset that Paul George comes into. We heard him talk about accepting the second role or being the second best player, not being the best player on those Clippers teams. So I think he'll seamlessly kind of come in and add to the offense and both sides of the ball, but not taking away from anybody. So I do like this fit in theory. Of course, it rests on health, but I do like this fit in Philly. I look at them different than I have in past years because of this moves and the additions they made and retaining Uber and things of that nature. So I like it.
Yeah, I think this was a big signing for the 76ers. Paul George was the target that they had on the top of their list in terms of free agents that they wanted to bring to their team. And I think that you said it very well in terms of Paul George is that connecting piece in terms of that big three. You have the guard in Maxi, and you have the former MVP in Joel Embiid at the center spot. So all you really needed was a connecting piece, a big time player that could fit into this team and make everything kind of go. And Paul George is that player. You just mentioned he's a two-way wing. That is a very important piece to a team. If you look at former NBA champions, all of those teams have had some sort of two-way wing play at a high level. I think Paul George is a guy that fits right into this team. Maxi will have the ball in his hands quite a bit, but you have Paul George that can also have the ball in his hands and make plays and run screen and roll with Embiid as well. And of course, we all know what Embiid does with the ball in his hands, but all of these players can also play without the ball in their hand. So that creates a lot more avenues that the Philadelphia 76ers can go down in terms of offense. And then defensively, I think that this team is very formidable with Paul George. And then Embiid, when he's healthy, he's really good at protecting the rim, getting rebounds, and things like that. So I really like this signing for the 76ers. I think this is a great fit for Paul George. And a lot of people also forget about Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse is a really great basketball mind. He won a championship with the Toronto Raptors when Kawhi Leonard was there a few years ago. So I think Nick Nurse combined with the talent that they have is going to be formidable in the Eastern Conference, and then they'll have a chance to compete for a championship if they make it through the East. So I really like this signing for the 76ers. It's tough for the Los Angeles Clippers, but for the Philadelphia 76ers, I think that they went out there, and Embiid being, I believe he's 30 years old at this point in time, this is the time to go in on trying to win a championship while he's in his prime, while Maxey is starting to enter into his prime. And Paul George is a piece that I think can help them compete for a championship. So it's a great signing for them. And like you mentioned before, really, injury is the biggest question mark. It's just going to come down to that health and the ability for them to gel together, which I think they can gel together. And at the end of the day, are they going to be healthy enough when it matters most?